Well, happy spring equinox, dear astro friends. The astrological year has started as the sun entered Aries, which was this morning at 7:56 a.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time. Yes, we're in Aries season now. We're in spring. What a transition from such a Piscean season to now such an Aries season. What a shift from super, super water to lots of fire. So, what's up with the astro weather this week? Literally today, starting with the spring equinox as it happens, and likely also as I'm now talking, Mercury is going direct. Mercury is going direct, that's for sure, but likely it corresponds literally with my recording since Mercury goes out of retrograde. Yes, it does finally. Mercury's been in retro since February 25th, which seems like ages ago, and so much happened since. So it's going direct at 12:33 p.m. Yes, Pacific Daylight Savings Time. That's literally in like 15 minutes. Yep. So nicely timed, although I thought I was late with the recording since usually I do it on a Tuesday, Wednesday. Today is Friday, but it needed to happen today at the spring equinox. And I'm very happy for the shift of energy. I bet you are also. And it was already catalyzed by the end of Pisces, very end of Pisces, new moon on the 18th. I quickly show you the chart of the new moon, but then we switch over to the spring equinox, I promise. So here is the end of Pisces new moon, just to show you how much Pisces energy there's been, and part of that still is happening. Here, early Pisces, North Node, Mercury retro, now going direct, and Mars. And then the new moon was literally at 28, 27, I see from behind Pisces. But both have shifted into Aries. The moon entered Aries even on the evening of the new moon, and the sun entered Aries this morning. And now what happens is the sun is meeting Neptune, which is happening on the 22nd, Sunday, and then meeting Saturn on the 25th. So there's a big shift into Aries here, right? So that end of Pisces energy of the new moon that the new moon offered had been a lot about release, yet also into renew, because it's also a new moon and it is all about the renewal of the spring equinox. I wrote the whole theme and all about the new moon entourage, as I like to call it, in my new moon Astro News blog article, and also in the newsletter for those who have subscribed to that email offering. And you can find it there. Here's just a video version for those who prefer that, and have a quick check-in in that regard. Now, the spring equinox, what a shift. As I say, a quick flashback just to demonstrate how much water, how much has been in the water element here, right? Half of the chart in water and so much in the mutability. Mutability also because of the Virgo rising and midheaven Gemini from Victoria perspective. So it's mostly about all that water energy, right? And clearly you see it, right? All this Pisces, but happened at the very end of it, shifting over to Aries inevitably. And here we have the spring equinox. Now, even at the spring equinox point this morning, there were seven celestial bodies in Aries even, plus also Lilith in Sag. But what's with all this Aries energy? Well, I definitely got to take a good look at it. As you see, the sun is approaching Neptune, which the sun will pass, happens once a year, but this year super critical, right? Right at this equinox point, and just as Saturn and Neptune have aligned. So this will happen in 2 days on the 22nd, and then the sun will pass Saturn on the 25th. So let's start with that. Yeah, so the sun sheds light, spirit, consciousness at, in this case, Neptune, Neptune in Aries. We've seen a lot of that now geopolitically with a Saturn Neptune conjunction punctured by this invasion and spreading like wildfire of the Middle East war-wise, right? So we have this, I would say, a learning, a teaching example of also a Mercury retrograde um, military initiative, let's put it that way, and a Mercury retrograde, 28th of February. It started on the 25th. Mercury had just gone retrograde. And yeah, what a wild and chaotic so-called strategy or shock and awe with backfiring and backlash. And just one note in terms of Trump, because that Mercury retro starts at the end of Pisces, T squared his opposition of Sun in Gemini, Uranus in Gemini, and Moon South Node in Sagittarius. He was born under a lunar eclipse, and Mercury retro squared it when it started. So, but of course, it was not just Trump's initiative. He was advised and he was pulled into it. No excuse, but nevertheless, there's many players involved. And yeah, and then I also did a little analysis of the Iranian chart, of the US chart, of the Israeli chart, of Trump's chart in my last newsletter, and also article for the total lunar eclipse, right? Also another lunar eclipse on March the 3rd, the second eclipse of this eclipse season. So I wrote about that. I'm not going on about it here, but it's super relevant because also we're in this physical reality where these alignments manifest. And I want to put it into the context also of the Saturn Neptune conjunction in early Aries, right? So Saturn in Aries was the last time in the late 1990s, but also in the late 1960s. So that's about 58, 59 years ago. And of course, it was big demonstrations against the Vietnam War, right? So that immediately comes to mind. And one could say a lot about that Saturn Neptune conjunction in the US chart. Just quick highlight, it is right on the bottom of the US chart, right? On the nadir, on its sort of home front. And yeah, so Saturn in Aries again is saying no to war, or also karma, right? Backlash. It's basically if you do this, if you take that initiative, neutrally put from the Aries side, and also if you wage war from the Aries side, there will be consequences. And are you ready to face them? Are you ready to deal with them? You are responsible, right, for these actions. And so Saturn cautions and says, yeah, be careful what you put yourself into. And then Neptune said, oh my gosh, this could be a domino effect. This is huge, because Neptune has not been in Aries in 165 years, right? It has a 165-year cycle. And so US wise, 165 years ago was a civil war. Just client friend asked me lately in terms of the Lincoln connection with, and yes, sure enough, Lincoln's presidency and assassination happened during Neptune in Aries. So now we are in a return of a cycle, but in combination with Saturn. So Saturn says, this needs to end. And how is this now a different situation altogether? Because Saturn and Neptune will be in a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius. So we are now in the Pluto in Aquarius era since end of 2024 until 2043, 44. And there will be this alignment. So the sun is shedding light, is bringing to consciousness what's to come, which is also the Saturn sextile to Pluto and the Neptune sextile to Pluto. The Saturn sextile actually will be already on next week. When is that? On the 28th of March. So this is a friendly alignment. They play well together when they are in sextile, Aquarius and Aries, and in this case Saturn and Pluto. So Pluto in Aquarius is a lot about the empowered humanity, right? Humanity is not putting up with this old world anachronistic warfare at the expense of everybody and only cashing in of the military, industrial, and other interested groups. So Pluto says in Aquarius, power to the people. We are the people, and we care about the future of humanity. So then Saturn says in Aries, this can't go on. So there will be that there's probably lots of movements are already in the making and happening as I'm speaking, for sure, and more of that to see as Neptune will also go into sextile with Pluto, which will be the first time this year. Um, Sorry, I don't know the dates. I could have looked into that, but it is in a wide sextile all year because both planets move very slowly. And I'm just looking into June, especially looking very close as Neptune stations. When does Neptune station? In early July. Yeah, July 4th, close to that. It will be at 425 Aries, while Pluto will be at 445 Aquarius. So July is definitely super relevant for the Neptune Pluto sextile, and it continues into August, fades a bit, but June, July are big about that, and they will come back. October, I see again as Pluto goes further back. Saturn, yeah, they're just again half a degree apart only in October, and the whole thing continues into 2027, right? So this is also with Neptune a movement, right? A movement of renewal and um, uh, and Pluto in Aquarius, right? So I was saying this is humanity. Of course, all these alignments can manifest in many ways, just like also the Saturn Neptune alignment. Who would have thought or wished for this to show up as this crazy war in the Middle East? But it is a fit as well on a very low vibration of a precedent Aries and something that spreads really fast. Also Aries and Saturn can have quite a backlash. Then, but at the same time, it's also a signature of the entry into a new era. And maybe it literally took this crazy escalation for humanity really to come together as never before. And so what else do we have? Again, the Sun passes Neptune first on the 22nd. The Sun passes Saturn on the 25th. And then Saturn and Pluto go into sextile on the 28th. Those will be quite a week of shifts, right? So even just from the Sun's perspective, Sun is super strong in Aries. Sun is exalted while Saturn is in fall in Aries. So the Sun, the strong spring Sun of renewal, is really coming on board now and bringing a fresh energy, but also a positive warrior spirit, not a devastating and basically old warrior spirit Saturn in Aries, right? And yeah, so, and then we have in Aries already Venus for a while, since early March until the 30th of March. Here's Venus at the equinox time here on the west coast. Venus was even rising together with the moon, with a new moon after the new moon on the 18th. Here, the new moon now in Aries with Venus. Wonderful. Uh, this is also a strong warrior goddess energy, of course. And we have Chiron and Aries, ERIS. That is an interesting alignment as well, which I also laid out in the last articles. I believe yeah, especially in the one for Jupiter's turnaround in Cancer, which I can also talk about. So, so much going on. So, what's with Chiron and Aries in Aries? Chiron's been in Aries since 2019 until this year, first phase in the summer, trying on Taurus. Then fully, Chiron will leave Aries for Taurus next year. So, Chiron in Aries at this time, but Aries is in Aries since the 1920s. And that's a big deal because it's 1927, I believe, Aries entered Aries and will be there until the 2040s, also like Pluto in Aquarius. So Aries is an asteroid goddess, is an archetype for division, discord, and small things can literally lead to war, right? So Aries was jealous and envious and peed off, so to say, for not being invited to this wedding, and she instigated and created an intrigue, so to say, to start the Trojan War in mythology. And so this is, you can see even the symbolism, right? It's kind of the opposite of Pisces. So Pisces is all about the union of worlds and dimensions, and Aries is okay, creating this wedge here where there could be a union, right? This is a divisive energy, and we've seen so much divisive energy, yes, through all the wars since the in the 20th century, but also lately in that combination of Aries and Chiron, right? So we see the wounds of war and all these unnecessary wars, and we know what's behind it, and they keep going on, right? So especially Ukraine war, Gaza war, and now Middle East war are both all three expressions of this Chiron Aries in Aries. And it's also the Aries energy. Interestingly, also Gaza, Middle East, Israel, and all that is quite an Aries energy in itself. It has to do also with, like religions, of course, comes out of the religious world of Pisces, but it also has to do with these desert people and warrior spirit, but also a old and primal energy in a way, right? And so, but definitely we see the wounds of war, we see the wounds of division, where there could be brotherhood and sisterhood, says Aquarius, right? And small things, so to say, can lead to big cascades. So, and now the good news is that Chiron finally passes Aries. Aries has been ahead, right? Aries, ERIS, has been ahead of the whole troop here, right? And leading this whole kind of, like gang. And now Chiron passes. The moon passes, of course, also on a monthly basis, and we'll do that this evening. But then eventually Venus will pass, the Sun will pass, Mercury will pass, Mars will pass. So they will all pass Aries, but Chiron is the most significant because Chiron has been aligned with Aries for a few years. And so Chiron is now, and that happens tomorrow. And so that's good news because now we can hopefully, as it looks from the alignment, move into the healing phase, right? It's been this division phase and wounding phase. We can move into the healing phase and what is needed to heal this whole paradigm, right? So, what else is going on this week? We have also a good alignment, I would say, from Mars again, warrior planet. Yeah, Mars in Pisces, still going on until the 9th of April, and that's been also a significant player because Mars in Pisces from early March on, in combination with Neptune in Aries since end of January and going on until the late 2030s, but especially the Mars in Pisces factor acutely is in mutual reception with Neptune in Aries. In other words, they are in each other's sign since Mars rules Aries and Neptune rules Pisces. So, but neither one of them is comfortable in this sign, right? So it's not a good mix. It's not a good combination that reinforces actually the weirdness of it also to say, right? And the escalation and cascading of wars that is totally unnecessary. And so we have Mars now, as I said, on a positive note, an opportunity, in other words, Mars in Pisces, watery, goes into this trine alignment, right? That is where's my pen? Okay, so here's a trine that goes into Jupiter in Cancer, and Jupiter is very well positioned in Cancer. That will help. So Mars brings out Jupiter. Jupiter can bring out the best of Mars, and that alignment will be on March 20th. Also, sorry, what am I saying? 21st, tomorrow. Yeah. So what's going on here? Mars also initiates the Jupiter direct as the new moon did on the 18th, but Mars helps, right? To initiate that going direct of Jupiter, which was on March 10th. And so here's another boost from Mars. And the two together, they actually bring lots of energy, but in this case, energy for homecoming from the Jupiter in Cancer perspective, and also for improvement of a situation for the human family and for children, for families, right? So Jupiter is benevolent and wants only the best and wants to find, opportunities, solutions, and improvement and enhancement. And humanity from an Aquarius perspective and families, children matter women, right? So just saying, right? There's been like also actually the Neptune in Aries and Mars in Pisces, also a really bad example for toxic masculinity. Just saying it, right? Very antiquated. We don't need this anymore. Thankfully, men nowadays are not acting like this anymore on a wide scale. Okay, so this is another indicator that an old era is really ending, and we see it, clear as day. And so that Mars Jupiter alignment, that's good. Then also the Chiron passing Aries, as I said, and the Sun passing Neptune and Saturn, and will be also in sextile with Pluto. So this is all a very boost into newness. Plus, as Mercury is probably now going technically out of retro since I've been talking for a while, we have now a non-retro phase, a retro-free phase until May the 6th when Pluto goes into retro. So this is a phase, especially starting, I would say, from April on, because we have to give Mercury a few days to get out of the stationary storm mode and pick up some momentum again, which will be technically on the 28th of March, but I would say yes, from April on. Yeah, full speed ahead. forward into new momentum, new life, right? Aries is the life force, and no retrograde planets is also a good sign for moving forward into the future and not going back. And so, what else is going on this week? Yes, we are in the first decade of Aries, the first 10 degrees in 10 days, March the 20th to the 30th, which has an extra Aries undertone. Okay, so this is all about begin, start fresh, and be yourself. The world needs you. Only you can be you, right? Show up as yourself for yourself. And yeah, this is about beginnings, just literally like nature now. And we have then the moon, as mentioned, also in Aries. Today, still after the new moon, going into Taurus this evening, close to midnight, 11:35 p.m. So the Aries moon brought a lot of dynamic energy, and it could have been a bit exhausting yesterday still with the Pisces sun. Today it feels more dynamic again and renewing. And now we have then, as the moon goes into Taurus and will be in Taurus over the weekend, we have both the sun and moon exalted in their best expression. The sun is super strong in Aries, the moon is super strong in Taurus, and it's a newly waxing young moon. How perfect, right? For any new endeavors. So, and at the same time, it's very grounding from the moon's perspective. And yeah, so it would be wonderful. I see the sun is coming out now also after so much rain. A so-called atmospheric river, aka Pineapple Express, came all the way from Hawaii here over to the west coast. Now the sun is coming out, beautifully aligned with the Aries post super Pisces energy. And yeah, so as the moon will be in Taurus over the weekend, we will have great energy for also planting, starting, like grounding energy, being in nature, which I plan to do tomorrow with a friend, and also, yeah, one way or another on Sunday. And yeah, it's nature brings everything to life, right? That's Taurus and Aries in combination. And then the moon will be in Gemini on Monday from early morning or just late night on 1:19 a.m. Pacific, and will be in Gemini Monday, almost all days Tuesday until Wednesday early morning. And that is the end now of the Astro Week. As I will do another video midweek next week. So anyway, the Gemini energy is very communicative, of course, and is always an eternal learner. Wonderful to write, learn, discuss, and all of the above, and also bring lightness into the picture. So Gemini combination with Aries, so air and fire and more air from Pluto. So it's a very stimulating energy. But again, we will then have another phase of nothing in an earth sign. We have to keep that in mind this whole time until Taurus season, or at least until Venus enters Taurus on the 30th of March, that there is practically no planet in an earth sign, only Uranus end of Taurus, but that's not very earthy because it's rather disruptive of the Taurus energy. And yes, Uranus in Taurus also helps us to ground the light and reminds us to not get so wired and also detached in a way, right? But actually to be grounded. So whenever the moon goes into an earth sign, that's very welcome. And that will be, as I said, this evening and for the weekend with the moon in Taurus. But then, again, we have to wait until the moon is in Virgo for more earth energy to come in. In other words, we need to cultivate it ourselves, not just wait for it. So the moon will be then in Taurus on the 29th afternoon, Sunday. And then welcoming Venus also on the 30th into Taurus. That'll be already a shift into more earthy energy, at least from that side. And however, the Aries energy really, really continues, right? So just saying, right? And so this week, with the Gemini moon early next week, yeah, it's exciting energy, wonderful. Things can really swiftly go forward. Also, as Mercury is technically then and already in forward mode. So yeah, wishing you a beautiful weekend, first weekend of spring, and happy equinox. Yeah, we are moving forward with elan and with the heart and being the warriors of love. Ciao.